Chapter 396, Yen regains consciousness. Forget it, then. Since you don't want to say, I won't ask. Tang Yunda smiled lightly and said, give me some time. I'll make you a genuine second-generation nouveau riche later. Tang Shou shook his head, I'm afraid there's no hope for you to make me a second-generation nouveau riche in this lifetime. Are you looking down on me? Tang Yunda stared at him. It's not that I'm looking down on you. Tang Shou said with a smile, but how much money do you think you can make annually? Do you want me to tell you how much net profit I got after selling only 2 batches of God's nectar? How much? Tang Yunda really didn't know. He only learned that God's nectar was very hot now. Kong Xia even sent over 10 boxes personally. He tasted it, and the flavor truly was the best. Smiling lightly, Tang Shou stretched out 4 fingers and said, nearly 4 billion. And like I said, it's just the net profit. Hiss. Tang Yunda abruptly stood, but his weak leg made him sat back on the sofa. As shock covered his thin face, he looked at Tang Shou in disbelief and then called out, you're saying that the God's nectar that you've just marketed has earned you 4 billion? Are you not joking with me? If Kong Xia didn't lie to me, then I'm not joking with you, Dad. Tang Shou smiled lightly and said, Kong Xia told me when we were on the way here, Mom was also there. Additionally, the other products of my magnificent Tang Corp, the cosmetic products, have also hit the market, and Kong Xia told me that the volume sales of the 2 cosmetic products are now increasing every day. Within a short period of time, the net profit earned by the magnificent Tang Corp has approached 100 million. Cough, cough. Tang Yunda choked a few times. He knew his son's magnificent Tang Corp had hit well. Although the earlier development was smooth after God's nectar hit the market, and due to its great flavor he had imagined that its sales would be great. However, he hadn't expected that the God's nectar's profit would be that big. Even the cosmetic products seemed to have a great potential as well. As for himself, even if he started his own endeavor and worked hard, he wouldn't be able to catch up with his son's magnificent Tang Corp, no? Tang Yunda's shocked heart slowly eased, replaced by helplessness. He shook his head and forced a smile. It is said that now is the era of relying on one's father's wealth and prestige to get ahead. But it looks like that it's the reverse in our family, that is, the son is the one managing the family. I can't make you a second-generation nouveau riche. Then, that makes you a third-generation as well as a first-generation nouveau riche, I think. A smile outlined on the corner of Tang Shou's mouth. Dad, you know your son is strong. Anyhow, if you have nothing else, I'll go first. Though I gave the company matters to Kong Xia to handle, I still have to abreast of matters, though. Yeah, even if Kong Xia is reliable and trustworthy, but after all, she's an outsider, unless you take her, Tang Yunda nodded. Tang Shou waved his hand and said, stop. Let's talk about this topic later. Having said that, Tang Shou strode out of the door. However, he didn't go to the first floor directly, instead, he went to the study room. After he saw the things inside the room, his expression immediately turned satisfied. His parents evidently knew that he had arranged Mu Qingping's matters beforehand, thus they didn't let anyone casually move anything inside his study room. Therefore, the decorations inside were still the same as before. Break. Tang Shou took a few minutes to dismantle several small arrays he had set up before. He then collected all the valuables into his interspatial ring. Afterward, he walked downstairs. In the kitchen, he saw his mother and Kong Xia there, with the 2 housemaids helping them. Tang Shou smiled and then saw the bored Su Quan sitting on the living room sofa, watching all sorts of TV programs. Quan, how is brother Ben now? Tang Shou sat beside him and asked with a smile. He's still the same. Uprightly honest, insensible to accommodate to circumstances, and still ensuring the security in the winery. But I heard the winery's director admires him. He said his character is trustworthy and reliable, so he's been promoted to become the vice captain of the security team. We all know perfectly well about Brother Ben's character. Tang Xiu said with a smile. However, it's a good thing, though. I'll send him to train after a while. Let alone becoming the security team's vice captain for the winery, it wouldn't even be a problem for him to become the magnificent Tang Corps' security chief captain in the future. Are you going to set up a security team? Su Quan was surprised. I do have this plan. After all, the enterprise has a lot of assets, so we need people to protect ourselves. Tang Xiu said with a smile. That's true. A pity that I'm not suitable for security given my character. I would have suffocated otherwise. Su Quan nodded. Your disposition is suited to managing. You're suitable to do business and management. Tang Xiu said with a smile. However, after you got the ability, you mustn't resign from the magnificent Tang Corp and self-employ yourself. Su Quan retracted his smile. He shook his head and said, Xiu, we brothers grew up together. You brought me to Star City and changed my destiny. I'm not one the type without conscience. Besides, my present income is pretty good. So long as my performance gets better, I trust my income will get higher as well. I'm not that silly to let go of a well-paid occupation and run out to strive for myself. Tang Xiu smiled. Just as he was about to speak, his eyes flickered when he saw passing on the TV's screen. Suddenly, the smile on his face froze and, as if lightning had suddenly struck his heart, he suddenly jumped. In a flash, he dashed to the TV's front and his eyes stared fixedly at the advertisement on it. Buried diamond, classical centuries of age and reincarnation, to find and give birth to perfect crystallization of romance. It's something worth for you all to have. Come, see us on October 1st in Shanghai Glory Auction. We look forward to your visit. On the TV screen, a glittering crystal diamond was emitting a fantastic, gorgeous light. 9 emerald leaves were composed around the diamond, forming a unique patterned diamond ring. Xiu, what happened? Looking at Tang Xiu's unusual behavior, Su Quan asked curiously. An excited look flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes as he clenched his fists tightly. At this time, his breathing turned rapid, and his heartbeat got faster than normal. He only felt a familiar feeling when he first saw the diamond ring. But in a flash after, he suddenly realized that the ring design pattern of 9 emerald leaves was akin to a plant, the demonic revival grass. That's right. This pattern is entirely tailored according to the demonic revival grass. I have to find the person who crafted this diamond ring. He must have news of the demonic revival grass. Tang Xiu suddenly turned around to look at Su Quan and asked, what was the auction's name said on TV just now? Shanghai Glory Auction. Su Quan said. Tang Xiu immediately rushed to the kitchen and loudly said, Mom, I have an urgent matter and must return to Shanghai, so I won't have time to eat the meal. Kong Xia, after I've handled this important matter, I'll come back and give the celebration feast. However, you can organize the merit celebration first before I come back. While holding a scoop in her hand, Su Lingyun asked with a puzzled expression, Xiu, didn't we just come back from Shanghai? What do you have to do there? There's a very important thing I must deal with promptly. Tang Xiu said seriously. Son, you still have to eat even if it's important. Su Lingyun said. There's no time, Mom. I'll going now. Tang Xiu said as he waved his hand and walked away. After hesitating for a moment, Kong Xia hurriedly chased after him. By the time she caught up, Tang Xiu was already sitting in the car he left parked in Star City, the Land Rover SUV. Boss, you'll be going to Shanghai, but when will you come back approximately? If you don't participate in the celebration, even if our magnificent Tang Corp holds the feast, it won't be joyous. Many high-level executives of our company want to see you. Kong Xia stood outside the window and said. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment. He then shook his head and said, I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll return as fast as possible. Let's keep in touch. All right. With a tinge of disappointment, Kong Xia silently nodded. As the car rushed out of Southgate Town, it then rushed toward the airport. Tang Xiu then called the private jet's captain, informing him to get ready to return to Shanghai. Jingmen Island. Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ, the seabed, on the exquisite pagoda's 7th floor. A chilling cold atmosphere filled the entire space of the 7th floor, the glistening azure light scattered from the ice bed as Gu Yan's eyelashes fluttered. Her eyes slowly opened as a fluctuating aura emitted out of her body. In a flash, a colder aura spread in all directions. How long have I been in slumber this time? Gu Yan slowly sat on the ice bed. Her slender jade-like fingers gently rubbed her brows. Her beauty was such as able to overthrow cities and ruin nations, enough to enchant all the peerless men in the world, yet it showed a bitter and agonized expression. Shoo! A ghost-like figure instantly appeared on the 7th floor. Gu Yan slightly raised her head. Seeing Ji Qimei kneeling directly in front of the ice bed, she said, "Old Ji, how many times I have told you, you really don't need to kneel every time. In fact, I already regarded you as family when you came with me to Earth to find Master." Ji Qimei's eyes misted over as an excited expression hung on her face. She looked up and said, "Master, we've found Venerable Lord." Gu Yan blanked. Her white dress fluttered as she flashed and appeared in front of Ji Qimei in an instant. An imperceptible force then pulled Ji Qimei up instantly, making Ji Qimei stand up at the same altitude as her. "You are not lying to me?" "No, this one absolutely isn't lying." Ji Qimei shook her head and said, "It was actually Xiao Xue who found Venerable Lord. Moreover, he had also been here several times, and accompanied you for a long time." Gu Yan quivered as she let out a smile and asked, "Where's he?" "My master, where is he now?" "He should be in Shanghai. A few days ago Venerable Lord called me to Shanghai to handle some matters for him. Thus I met him there, and..." Chapter 397, Burning with Impatience and Anxiety. "And what?" Gu Yan asked rapidly. This one is particularly clueless about the situation with Venerable Lord. What this one knows is that Venerable Lord's cultivation level is very low. But strangely, the rate of his strength's advancement is very fast. From the first time this one saw him a few months ago to now, he had a breakthrough yet again, and his strength soared by several levels. Gu Yan smiled, but 2 lines of clear tears fell down from her eyes. The feeling of missing him for thousands of years was akin to a devilish-like obsession. It was what supported her. She felt that it was worth it for being able to say farewell to her master before her soul disappeared. "Take me to him." Gu Yan waved her arm, allowing Ji Qimei to land on the floor. Her figure then appeared in the pagoda's 7th floor door. However, just as she appeared on the 1st floor of the exquisite pagoda, her black eyebrows furrowed as a painful look appeared on her face. Ji Qimei's speed was similarly fast and instantly appeared in front of Gu Yan, her body blocking the 1st floor door. "Old Ji, what are you doing?" Gu Yan's complexion turned cold as she growled. "You can't leave the exquisite pagoda, master." Ji Qimei shook her head and said, "If it was the first 10 years and you wanted to leave, I wouldn't stop you, but your physical condition is getting worse, so you mustn't leave. Otherwise, I guarantee you that, before reaching Shanghai and meeting Venerable Lord, you will once again fall into a comatose state." Her complexion changing, Gu Yan suddenly sobered up. She even forgot such an important thing due to her anxiousness and impatience. She was indeed desperate, wanting to see her master, to pour out everything she felt for the thousands of years of hardship she had gone through. But she couldn't do that, for that would lead her into a comatose due to impatience. "Old Ji, Master, I'll go contact Venerable Lord." Ji Chime said in a deep voice, he should come over quickly if I call him. I feel quite good after waking up this time. It's as I'm better and more spirited than the last time. Gu Yen inquired, from my judgment of my own condition, I should be able to endure for 3 days. Tell me, can he arrive within 3 days? Without hesitation, Ji Chime replied, definitely. The transportation means are very developed nowadays. In order to see you before, Venerable Lord also borrowed a private jet. I once heard from him that he'd also take a private jet to immediately rush over here once he heard that you're awake. Gu Yen slowly nodded and held Ji Chime's arm. She then softly asked, Old Ji, tell me about Master. Everything you know, from the beginning. I have to know. All right. I'll tell you everything. Ji Chime nodded and said, but I must go contact Venerable Lord first. After that, we'll return to the 7th floor, and then I'll tell you everything I know. Let's go back. Gu Yener gently nodded. On a road nearby Southgate Town, just as Tang Xiu finished the call, he suddenly received a phone call from Ji Chime. Although he urgently wanted to hurry back to Shanghai to find out about the link between the diamond ring and the demonic revival grass, he still answered the phone. Ji Chime, what's up? Lord, Master has woken up. Awake? What did you say? Yener, she woke up. Tang Xiu's body trembled. His hand anxiously changed the steering wheel's direction and tilted to stop at the roadside. Yes, Master wants to see you immediately. But her physical condition is too poor, so she has no means to leave the exquisite pagoda. So, Ji Chime forced a smile and said. I'm on the way to the airport now. Tang Xiu said without hesitation, I'll rush there immediately. Tell Yener to stay within the exquisite pagoda and wait for me. Understood. Ji Chime respectfully said. After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu restarted the car. He then called the private jet's captain again, telling him to not apply for the Shanghai, but to Jingmen Island. Although the captain was very curious, he still acted according to Tang Xiu's instructions. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu arrived at the airport. When he boarded the private jet, the middle-aged captain greeted him and said with a forced smile, Mr. Tang, I contacted the Star City Airport's authorities. But due to the time and tight scheduled routes, I'm afraid we'll have to wait for 2.5 hours to take off. You can't use any of your contacts at all? Tang Xiu frowned and asked in a deep voice. The middle-aged captain forced a wry smile and said, we have no contacts in Star City. Tang Xiu took out his mobile phone and called Long Hanwen. After the other party answered, he asked, Uncle Long, I have something to ask. Do you have any contacts in Star City Airport? I might have. What exactly do you need? Long Hanwen's voice came out of the phone. I borrowed my friend's private job and it's now parked at Star City Airport. Tang Xiu said, I'm currently in a hurry to leave for Jingmen Island, but my application encountered trouble, so I need to wait for 2.5 hours before I can take off. Therefore, if Uncle Long has any way, could you help me contact them? All right. Wait for my call. Long Hanwen said. A few minutes later, Long Hanwen called again. After Tang Xiu answered, he said with a wry tone, Tang Xiu, I have no other means either. My old friend told me that the route has been fixed long ago. If there are any unauthorized changes, it will cause 78 flights to become late. How about you wait? I understand, Uncle Long. Tang Xiu said, it's a bit of an urgent matter, so I'll try to find another way. All right. Long Hanwen regrettably said. After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu fell into silence for a while. Then, he suddenly remembered someone and immediately made a phone call. Big nephew, you rarely take the initiative to call your aunt. How come you remembered to call me today all of a sudden? Tang Min's voice came from the phone. Auntie, between your privileges and connections, is there any way to affect Star City Airport? I have an urgent matter to deal with. Tang Xiu rapidly said. Tang Min was silent for a while, before she seriously replied, if it is a very serious matter, I have a way. Then, please help me contact them. I'll tell the captain to tell you about the private jet's model. I need to go to Jingmen Island. Tang Xiu said. All right. Tang Min and the middle-aged captain then talked. Quickly, the middle-aged captain then received a call from the airport authority, as the latter then said, Mr. Tang, you're really awesome. With just your little effort, I already received a few calls. Even the one now was a big shot from the capital. Forget it. I just made adjustments, so you can take off within half an hour at the most, is that all right? The middle-aged captain shot Tang Xiu a glance and was secretly shocked. Though he knew that Tang Xiu had made several phone calls, he knew that the last person he called was his aunt. Yet, he didn't expect that Tang Xiu's aunt would have so much power. Even the top leader of Star City Airport had to alter the route of the other flights. Mr. Tang, how about within half an hour? The middle-aged captain covered the microphone and murmured to Tang Xiu. That's all right. Tang Xiu nodded. Thanks, Chief. It's not a problem. The middle-aged man then replied through the phone. Beijing, inside a certain government building. After hanging up the phone, Tang Min's eyes glinted and she looked thoughtful. She was a bit curious as to why Tang Xiu was so anxious to leave for Jingmen Island. Although she didn't have much contact with her own nephew, she knew many things about her biological nephew through what he had done. She knew that Tang Xiu was a young man with steady personality, and he could do well regardless of any matters. Just 2.5 hours. Yet, he couldn't sit still for 2 hours. He even needed to ask her for help. Thus, he probably ran into an extremely important matter. Tang Min immediately grabbed the phone from her desk and dialed a number. Father, Xiu just called me, he wanted me to help him. Beijing, in the Tang's ancestral residence. Tang Guisheng was holding a paper and a pen. He was deep in thought about some matters. After receiving the call from his daughter and hearing the content, his face turned solemn. After being in silence for a while, he slowly said, I got it. I'll call him myself. Tang Guisheng hung up the phone and dialed Tang Xiu's number. Xiu. I just heard that you leave for Jingmen Island from Star City, is that right? What important matter you must handle? You must tell Grandpa if something's wrong. I'll even give my remaining short life to help you solve it. In order not to be repelled by Tang Xiu, Tang Guisheng immediately said words filled with concern. Grandpa, I indeed have an important matter. But the Tang family won't be able to help in this matter. Tang Xiu said, besides, I don't need anyone to help either. The reason why I'm so urgent to leave for Jingmen Island is that I need to see someone. That person is someone very important to me. Tang Guisheng suddenly understood, yet he was still a bit worried. It's great if there's no danger. Xiu. I know you're very powerful, but you must remember that it's difficult to face four enemies with only 2 fists. You must promptly tell Grandpa if anything happens. My body is quite tough now, so I can help you bear the burden as well. I know, Grandpa. Tang Xiu said. After hesitating for a moment, Tang Guisheng then said, Can you tell me who is the person you must see in Jingmen Island? Tang Xiu was silent for a while, and then slowly said, She's my disciple. With a slight change in countenance, Tang Guisheng then said in a deep voice, I understand. I won't ask anything else. But, do pay attention to your safety. All right. After the call ended, Tang Guisheng's brows slightly furrowed. He knew a lot of things about Tang Xiu's matters. He also learned that Tang Xiu had 4 disciples. One of whom was Chen Zhizhong. Another one was a little girl, Guyin. and the other one was in the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. As for the other one, he had sent people to inquire before, however, they're no news at all. Chapter 398, Master and Disciple Reunion. Bright sunlight shined on the earth, while a warm breeze was mixed with a light fishy smell of seawater. Outside the entrance to Jingmen Island's everlasting feast hall, a black car arrived as though lightning. Creak. When the black car was tens of meters away from the gate, the brakes sounded and the car completely stopped just in front of the gate pole. Lift the pole. The moment a middle-aged man in the driver's seat came out, he faced the four big men and shouted. The four big men immediately showed a respectful look upon seeing the middle-aged man. One of them immediately raised the pole, while the middle-aged man then sat back in the driver's seat. As the car's door closed, he deeply stepped on the throttle pedal. The car shot out as though an arrow, and instantly rushed inside. What happened with military instructor Liu? How can he be so anxious? Is there an important matter? Have you heard any mission passed down from the top brass? I think I saw our boss in the back seat. Boss? Our new boss.
Yeah.
During the four big men's discussion, the black car quickly rushed into the everlasting feast hall's parking lot. The moment Tang Xiu opened the car's door, he saw Gu Xiaoxue coming flying at him. Grand Master. With her eyes looking a bit red, Gu Xiaoxue dashed toward Tang Xiu. Behind her, a man and a woman followed. The young man was dressed in white, with soft, loose hair. His appearance was quite handsome, looking around 27 or 28. The woman was dressed in black sportswear, a black cloak, and was also wearing a black mask. Boss, I'm light. I'm dark. The young man and woman cupped their fists and said respectfully. Tang Xiu raised his brows as he patted Gu Xiaoxue's shoulder. He then dashed toward the seashore's direction and asked, "What's the matter with them?" Boss, light and dark are the geniuses Master has been training. They are the best talents, picked from thousands of people. They are just like me, who have embarked on the cultivation path as early as I have on the immortality cultivation. However, the two of them have special identities. There are only a few of our everlasting feast hall's people who know their existence. But I put their names in the list I gave you before. Gu Xiaoxue said. After recalling about it, Tang Xiu remembered that he indeed had seen the names Light and Dark. It was just that he didn't expect that both of them had special identities. For being able to stand out from thousands of people mean that they have good aptitudes. If you perform well, I'll teach you a stronger cultivation technique and even more powerful immortal techniques. Be loyal and faithful. If you don't die young, I can even give you a much bigger fortune. Light and Dark exchanged glances as a pleasantly surprised look immediately burst out from their eyes. We understand. Tang Xiu nodded in a response. After that, he dashed to the coastline at his maximum speed. He didn't even take the lone boat, instead, he cast his Imperial Wind secret art. His feet were as though treading on the sea surface. Layer upon layer of waves rippled as he continued moving forward toward the sea. Imperial Wind secret art? Gu Xiaoxue, Light and Dark exchanged surprised looks. The trio immediately also cast the Imperial Wind secret art, following behind Tang Xiu as those shadows. They quickly dashed forward, their speed much faster than Tang Xiu's. Within a short several breaths, they had caught up and maintained the distance with Tang Xiu. Gu Xiaoxue then brandished her arms as though a knife, splitting the seawater into two. The group then bolted toward the exquisite pagoda. There, Ji Qimei had long been waiting and personally opened the pagoda's door. Lord, Master is waiting for you on the 7th floor. Okay. Tang Xiu replied as his figure flashed toward the upper floor. Gu Yan, Light and Dark, however, were stopped by Ji Qimei, who shook her head silently. Elder Ji, Master must be very happy. Gu Xiaoxue said softly. A gratified look appeared on Ji Qimei's face. She nodded and sighed, of course she's happy. Master has been searching for Venerable Lord with so much hardship. All in all, she has suffered many difficulties and hardships for the Lord. I only hope that the Lord can understand her heart. On the 7th floor of the exquisite pagoda. Inside, Gu Yan was sitting cross-legged on the ice bed. Her fingers cast a strange hand seal, while the chilling cold in her body surged into the air. At this moment, the 7th floor temperature was much lower than when she was in a comatose state. Despite having a large increase in his cultivation level, Tang Xiu could still feel a biting cold chilling invasion and felt cold all over his body. The instant Tang Xiu stepped into the 7th floor, his gaze locked at the stunning beauty with pale face. His pace came to a stop in an instant. His heartbeat, however, thumped and sped up. A warm feeling that came from the soul surged out as though a spring. The warmth passed to his limbs and 5 organs. It was as if the chilling cold no longer had the slightest impact on him whatsoever. Gu Yan's eyelashes fluttered. Her lucid, bright eyes opened, and she looked slightly dazed. But an instant later, sparkling and glittering tears appeared in her eyes. Her delicate body floated in the air. She was as though a female celestial with her feet dancing and treading on the void, slowly coming before Tang Xiu. Yen. Tang Xiu's lips quivered. His voice sounded a bit hoarse. The glittering and translucent tears in Gu Yan's eyes were as though a sea. It finally burst out as large drops fell over her face like falling pearls, dripping down onto her dress and wetting it, as she threw herself into Tang Xiu's embrace. Master. Such a mournful sounds of weeping blood of a cuckoo, just like melodic inversions of hundreds of swallows it was recited and turned into thousands of years of vibratos, only to say everything inside her mind of what she had been longing for. Hugging Gu Yan's thin and cold body, there were not the slightest evil thought in Tang Xiu's mind. Instead, his heart was full of warmth and affection, filled with guilt and wanting. He gently stroked Gu Yan's silky black hair, murmuring, "You've finally woken up for Master to see you again. Your wish of a lifetime has come true. Good child, you're my good child." Gu Yan's body turned stiff as her sobbing paused in an instant. She pulled a bit of distance from Tang Xiu. While holding his face, she shook her head with eyes brimming with tears. Tang Xiu keenly realized Gu Yan's unusual behavior. He quickly grabbed her hand and asked with concern, "Yan, what happened to you? Are you not feeling well?" Shaking her head and eyes filled with full of affection, Gu Yan shook her head again and said, "Master, Yan is very well now. Really, really well. Yan can see Master again, even if I have to die now, Yan is willing." For thousands of years, Yan has never feared suffering any hardships and difficulties only to find you. I'm already contented and satisfied so long as I can see you, Master. While holding up her hands, Tang Xiu said in a low voice, "Yan, rest assured. You have seen me. Besides, I haven't died, I'm still alive. Later on, Master won't meet with any mishap again, and I won't leave you despite everything." Gu Yan nodded repeatedly. Though her tears didn't stop flowing, a dazzling smile appeared on her beautiful, pale face. It was a pure smile, full of contentment. Tang Xiu's subject then shifted as his expression turned solemn. After he took a deep breath, he said in a deep voice, "Yan, Master swears to you that, regardless of how much I must pay in the future, I will find the chrono crystal and the demonic revival grass to cure your injury. Just trust me." In Gu Yan's lifetime, the person she relied on and most trusted was always Tang Xiu. When she heard his words, she nodded without hesitation, "Yan believes in you, Master. Also, although Master returned to the earth, my cultivation has gone into nothingness." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "But believe me, sooner or later, I will take you to return back to the immortal world. I will make that shade demon, Zhu Wushou, pay a bitter and painful price for injuring you. Only I alone can hit, chide, and punish my own disciples. No one else has the rights to do so." Gu Yan shook her head quickly, and bitterly said, Master, I don't want you to avenge me. As long as you can be safe and sound, as long as Yan can follow you and be happy, Yan will be contented and satisfied. You will be happy following me in the future, however, that shade demon, Zhu Wushou must die. Tang Xiu solemnly said, all right, let's not talk about this. We, master and disciple, have met again, so let master have a good look at you. Gu Yan let out a dazzling smile yet again. She nodded heavily and said, Master, your appearance has changed. Although you still have the previous shadows, is this the real you?
Yeah.
Tang Xiu nodded and said, due to a strange mix of circumstances, a wisp of Master's soul went through space, and the same strange circumstances also made me have the same surname and given the name Tang Xiu as well there. This root of my soul, unless it can break through the shackles of a celestial being and turn into a god, it was able to find the way back. I had never expected that because of them, with a strange chance of circumstances, I returned to Earth. Anyhow, but you, Yen, though you were a few years older than when you were missing, your appearance hasn't changed at all. You're still so beautiful. You're still the disciple Master loves the most. Master, so you turns out to be only a wisp of soul who went to the immortal world. Gu Yan said with a smile, so, that's why. That explains why I was only able to find a bit of a clue when I peeped at the heavenly secrets, despite much difficulties. Fortunately, my last gamble proved the correct one. Yen, Master knows that you suffered a lot of pain and mishaps in these thousands of years. Tang Xiu sighed, in fact, you shouldn't have delayed so many years for your master. What I always hoped for you is that you can live happily, becoming an immortal and becoming a god in future. You coming to Earth truly makes your master feel guilty. Master, you're the only source of happiness I have. Gu Yan shook her head and said with a smile, I actually regretted it. I regretted throwing myself into that hopeless situation, to look for Yen, if I were still in the immortal world, I would have stopped you from going there. Tang Xiu gently shook his head and interrupted her, saying, but now, I feel that what you did was the correct choice. All the supremes in the immortal world know that you're my favorite disciple. I almost died when they ambushed me. But if you were by my side back then, I'm afraid that the disaster wouldn't have ended that well. Gu Yan fell into silence. She knew that Tang Xiu was correct. Had she followed at her master's side back then, she probably would have ended up dying. If she were to be killed by them at that time, she wouldn't have had this opportunity at reunion with her master at this moment. Chapter 399, Confession. A master and a disciple met again and talked about everything inside their minds and hearts. Although the exquisite pagoda's 7th floor was full of chilling air, yet their two hearts were filled with warmth. Time went by as the duo talked more. Finally, as if recalling something, Gu Yan jumped up, and then said with a smile, Master, Yen wants to present you a gift. Though I wanted to find an object of your liking before, however, I turned out to find a better one, and I think you'll like it, Master. What object? Tang Xiu was surprised. Gu Yan's lightly touched her tiptoe. Her white dress hiked up with her just like a fairy performing a dance. A soft green light appeared in her hand, an aquamarine-colored seed enwrapped at the center of the green light. Yes, it was a seed. And it emitted out a thick life force. Tang Xiu furrowed his brows deeply, looking at the scene in the green light. He racked up his brains searching knowledge about it, yet he couldn't find the slightest information about this seed. He was sure he had never seen this kind of seed before. Yen, this is, Tang Xiu asked with deep curiosity. Master, you know about the top 3 objects among the top 10 supreme divine items in the immortal world, right? Gu Yan coquettishly asked.
Yeah.
I know about them. Tang Xiu said, the first object is the world core, the second one is the heavenly path universe tree, and the third one is the wheel of samsara. That's right, the world core is the immortal world's core. It's located in the most mysterious place, the phantasm oblivion domain. Several eras ago super experts were known to be able to shuttle back and forth from the God realm to borrow the world core's energy, in order to expand the boundaries of the immortal world by several millions of times. As for the Wheel of Samsara, it's precisely the most profound heavenly law in regards to reincarnation principles. Whoever controls the Wheel of Samsara is said to be able to govern the path of samsara of 1 trillion of lives, and will be able to draw support from the cycle of karma and fate to set foot into the God realm. Unfortunately, this is only a legend, for no one was able to obtain the Wheel of Samsara. This seed itself is only the crystallization of this era's heavenly path universe tree. But it's also the one and only seed ever since the immortal world existed. If this seed were to be cultivated inside someone's heart, that person could control the second path leading to the God realm. Because the heavenly path universe tree back then was the only path leading to the God realm before it was cut down. With a terrified expression, Tang Xiu looked at the seed. His eyes stared at Gu Yan, who let out a brilliant smile. He then shook his head and said, "Yan, from where did you get this object?" A vicious glint flashed in Gu Yan's eyes, as she laughed and said, "Master, 3.6 thousand years after you were rumored to have been slain, 17 of the strongest immortal world supremes respectively consecrated a drop of their blood essence and life source, in order to be able to get a new path to heaven. They finally figured out a trace of a heavenly secret after the heavenly emperor Tianji and his 9 disciples conducted time-consuming and painstaking deductions for 360 years. Subsequently, those 17 strongest supremes went to a certain place according to the heavenly emperor Tianji's divination. That place was called Immortal Green Radish Domain, in the Vinegos land. After finding that the heavenly path universe tree was cut off, they then found this seed left behind. Heavenly Emperor Tianji, who deciphered this heavenly secret, however, was actually unable to predict their hearts. Those 17 supremes fought with each other to snatch it. Supreme Bei Hua used the divinity blood seal technique to tear the void and pass this seed to me before he died. Supreme Bei Hua died, and he unexpectedly cast the divinity blood seal technique? Tang Xiu's countenance slightly changed, but that's the most powerful forbidden art belonging to the archdemon Wu Zui, who has ascended, becoming a demon god in the demon realm. Master, Supreme Bei Hua was originally someone from the demon realm. Gu Yan said, but he was forced to cross over his soul to the immortal world. He eventually became a supreme in the immortal world after cultivating for a long period of time. Anyways, he left me a few words after he passed me the seed. What words? Tang Xiu asked. He said, this crazy demon had once gotten help, and this old friend is now paying the favor back. Settling the past karma, for 1 sword and 1 meal. Gu Yan said. Tang Xiu's heart shivered, and he slowly closed his eyes. Back then, he accidentally passed by a certain place in the immortal world, where someone was in desperate straits. There, he met Supreme Bei Hua, who was unable to escape from a predicament. Since he didn't want to see such a powerhouse die and disappear, he lent a hand to help him. In that dire situation, he cut off the root of a soul devourer grass with his sword and rescued Supreme Bei Hua, who was dying. Then, he gifted him a holy healing medicine for him to eat, helping him recover his strength. Later on, he went back to his cultivation cave. Supreme Bei Hua paid him a visit on several occasions, attempting to pay this favor back. However, due to being in seclusion, he didn't see him. He had never thought that his best friend for thousands of years would betray him just for mere interests, yet, Supreme Bei Hua, whose life he saved when he was in a hopeless situation, turned out to have never forgotten the favor. What was an immortal? What was a demon? Tang Xiu suddenly smiled. He looked at Gu Yan and then said, Yan, you guessed it, didn't you? Yes, master. Gu Yan smiled lightly. I actually had already guessed it before Supreme Bei Hua passed me this seed. Back then in the immortal world, I had experienced countless life and death occasions, in order to become stronger, in order to find master's whereabouts. Twice did Supreme Bei Hua rescue me. The first time he saved me, he told me that he wanted to take me as a disciple, but I refused him. The second time he saved me, he told me to say he was sorry at your grave. Supreme Bei-Wa truly is a rarity in the immortal world. Tang Shou nodded and said, I will definitely take care of his descendants when I'm back to the immortal world one day. Master, quickly plant this heavenly path universe tree seed in your heart. Gu Yan said with a smile, only nourishing it with your heart's blood essence can it take root and grow. I'm looking forward to the day when Master can plant a new heavenly path universe tree and stand at the apex of the God realm. Tang Shou shot a deep look at Gu Yan. He didn't receive it, instead, fell into silence for a while. He then slowly asked, Yan, why don't you plant this heavenly path universe tree seed yourself? Even if you do, Master will still able to stand above the immortal world in the future with your help. Master, this seed can only be owned by you. Gu Yan shook her head and said, you're the only one for me. Whoever wants this seed is desecrating the feeling I have for Master. Even if it is myself. Tang Shou's heart shook. He took the seed silently. The instant he received it in his palm, his star force pulled the seed into his heart, as a hole was cracked on it and the seed then fused inside. Afterward, the rupture on his heart slowly healed under the nourishment of his star force. Bang! An overbearing and strong life force aura exploded within Tang Shou's heart. He was unable to react as his heart expanded into space. Although this space was only several square meters in size, however, the blood essence inside Tang Shou's heart was all poured into this space. The seed emitted a bright green light then quietly floated in the blood essence. The heart sea? I actually have a heart sea? Suddenly, Tang Shou felt his life force aura violently soaring, his blood essence crazily increasing by hundreds of times. He could feel that his whole body had become stronger and better than ever. He had never felt so energetic even when he was in the immortal world. It was as though his soul had sublimated. With a smile, Gu Yan watched the drastic increase of Tang Shou's aura. She then softly said, Yan congratulates you, Master. You're the only person I've ever worshipped. And the only one I can rely on. Yan will entirely rely on Master later. Don't worry. Tang Shou said with a smile, Master will certainly work hard to heal your injury. I'll definitely keep you beside me and make you very happy. Even if you find a worthy husband in the future, I won't allow you to go to a faraway place. I can never let you suffer any more mishaps. Worthy husband? The smile on Gu Yan's face instantly froze. It was like her heart had been severely sheared by a knife at this moment. It was very painful. Ever since she grew up, ever since she understood the affections between man and woman, he was her closest relative. He was also the one she loved the most. He became her obsession, becoming her support to crazily cultivate for several thousands of years, maniacally enhancing her strength, and madly searching his whereabouts. It was true. It was the very reason for her familial affection. However, that was also love. A silly love. She could have ignored it, and couldn't care less if it was someone else who told her to find her Mr. Right. But not from her master, since she already had given her heart to him. He still couldn't move on. Realizing the queer smile on Gu Yan's face, Tang Shou hastily asked, concerned, Yan, are you not feeling well? Come and sit on the ice bed. Don't worry, Master won't leave even half a step. I'll accompany you while you're still awake. Gu Yan inhaled a deep breath. She had fallen in love with her master long ago, yet it was an unrequited love. She could only put it inside her heart silently, for she didn't dare to reveal it to him. But now, she had gone through too much, she didn't even care about life and death anymore. Thus, she became very bold at this moment. Master, Yan won't marry for the rest of my life. Unless the man Yan must marry is you. Tang Shou was as though struck by a thunderbolt. His body turned incomparably rigid in an instant. He looked at her with disbelief, as if he felt that this treasured disciple of his became strange all of a sudden. This child, is she joking or something? Tang Xiu thought inwardly, yet, when he looked at Gu Yan's serious expression, he could tell that she wasn't joking. Suddenly, he felt somewhat overwhelmed despite having lived for 10 millenniums. Looking at Tang Xiu's expression, Gu Yan felt somewhat dejected and bitter. Yet, at the same time, she was also excited, since she was finally able to say what she always wanted to say, the feeling that had stayed hidden inside her heart for thousands of years. As complicated as the mood was, Gu Yan gently sat beside Tang Xiu, grabbing his arm and resting her head on his shoulder, whispering, "Master, you're the person Yan loves the most. I've decided to be with you forever. Unless you personally kill me, you can never throw me off. Child, please don't talk such nonsensical things again." Master has once married, Tang Xiu forced a bitter smile and said. Chapter 400, There's only you in my eyes. Looking at Tang Xiu's frozen expression, Gu Yan sighed inwardly and said, "Master, needless to say for you to have once married that woman. Even if you don't want to go through romance again, I will still say it now. In my opinion, there is no woman in this world who can have Master for herself. Even if Master has countless wives, Yan will still be content as long as you have me in your heart." She suddenly sat and straightened up her body. She faced Tang Xiu, squatted in front of him, raised her small face, and then said, "Master, if you still love that woman, I will help you get her no matter the price. Even if you want 3,000 beautiful women or 30,000 fairy maiden concubines in your harem, I can help you gather them. However, Yan only wants you, Master. Regardless of who Master wants, Yan will do everything to help you get them." Tang Xiu's heart trembled, looking at her in disbelief. Except for forcing out a smile inwardly, he couldn't utter any words to express what he felt. This doesn't make sense. After a very long while, Tang Xiu suddenly recalled the matter with Han Qinggu. His mind suddenly revolved, as he asked, "Yan, can you tell Master about something?" "What do you want to know, Master?" Gu Yan's color changed as she smiled and said, "As long as Yan knows about it, I will tell you everything." Tang Xiu hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth and then asked, What happened to her?" "Shui Qingcheng." Gu Yan's brows slightly furrowed. "Yeah." Tang Xiu nodded. After Master was rumored to have been persecuted by Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiu Yao, she was said to have been jointly killed by the other two. I'm not 100% sure whether she's alive or dead. Even though I did secretly investigated her for several thousands of years, I've yet to find any traces of her. It's like she disappeared from the immortal world. A glint flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes. "You mean, she's highly likely to have died in Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiu Yao's hands?" "The possibility is indeed very likely." Gu Yan nodded and said, "However, since I was mainly looking for Master's whereabouts, I only investigated her to avenge you. So I'm not too sure." At this time, Tang Xiu finally understood. He knew that the woman who once made him crazy in love had probably already died. And Han Qingwu was, perhaps, her reincarnation. Only, the thing that made him a bit doubtful was that, how could she so coincidentally reincarnate on Earth? Gu Yan's expression suddenly moved, saying, "Master, I once deceived Shade Demon Zhu Wushou. I learned something from him about that most beloved disciple of his." "What is it?" Tang Xiu asked. Zhu Wushou's disciple said that Shui Qingcheng was actually his senior sister and also Shade Demon, Zhu Wushou's eldest disciple. Gu Yan said. "What did you say?" Tang Xiu abruptly stood, disbelief burst out from his eyes. "She is Shade Demon, Zhu Wushou's disciple?" "Shui Qingcheng actually." "Master, I believe him. He shouldn't have lied to me." Gu Yan said, "But what I don't understand is why and for what did Shade Demon Zhu Wushou send his eldest disciple to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect?" Tang Xiu didn't answer her question and instead, took a deep breath. He finally realized that there were indeed many times where Shui Qingcheng looked unusual during her days living together with him. Back then he was clueless. But now, after thinking about it carefully, he finally realized some things. After restraining all his thoughts, Tang Xiu then looked at Gu Yan and said, "Yan, let's stop talking about this topic for now. Since you've obtained that seed for master, my cultivation speed will surely get faster. Only after I make myself stronger will I be able to protect the people I care about, and then return to the immortal world. To look for those who betrayed me and settle the account with them. Master, Yan probably can't help you." Gu Yan said softly. "You're wrong. You can help me. You'll be my greatest helper." Tang Xiu shook his head. "But I don't have much time," Gu Yan said hesitantly. "Cut that out." Tang Xiu angrily retorted, "Who says you're running out of time? You keep saying that you trust me, don't you? Do you really think Master is unable to find the chrono crystal and the demonic revival grass?" Gu Yan's complexion was a bit tarried. She quickly shook her head and said, "Disciple is wrong. I believe Master can achieve it." Looking at her scared look, Tang Xiu turned soft. He reached out his hand to pull her up and gently made her sit next to him. He hugged her as though she was a child and whispered, "Yan, it's my bad. Master shouldn't have been mad at you. But you have to trust Master. Regardless of how hard and how big the price will be, Master will find those two things and completely remove the Twilight Nightmare from your injury." "All right." Gu Yan rested on Tang Xiu's chest and gently nodded. "Yan, your current cultivation level is much more formidable than Master's. Tell me, what cultivation level have you achieved?" Tang Xiu suddenly asked with a smile. "There's just a step left before I reach the supreme stage." Gu Yan smiled lightly. "Amazing." Tang Xiu was surprised and said, "Your cultivation speed is even faster than Master's in the past. That's because Master has laid a solid foundation for me, while I also chanced upon some fortuitous encounters as well." Feeling happy, Gu Yan replied, "However, the strength I can showcase now is perhaps at the level of an ordinary immortal. You're already the strongest here on Earth." Tang Xiu said with a smile, "You can even destroy this planet should you wish to." "No, I won't do that." Gu Yan said with a smile, "This place is your hometown, which means that is also Yan's home. Yan, I'm planning to take the exquisite pagoda from this place. I found an island in the Pacific Ocean which is very similar with the 9 Dragons Spitting Pearls secret area we once lived in. I already bought that island, and now it's currently being rebuilt. I drew the architectural blueprint myself, and there are a lot of construction workers rebuilding the place. Once the rebuilding has been completed, it will become a land with precious feng shui. And that place will become our supreme headquarters in the future." Tang Xiu said. "After Yan wakes up, I can plant rainbow herbs there?" Gu Yan was pleasantly surprised and said, "There are many rainbow herbs in Yan's interspatial ring." "Yeah, you can." Tang Xiu said smilingly. Gu Yan's smile grew more dazzling. Suddenly, she recalled something and said, "Master, your cultivation level is not that high right now. Do you need to eat? Are you hungry? Yan wants to eat something. Can you accompany me to the restaurant and have a meal with me?" "Yan, you're not fit enough to leave the exquisite pagoda for now." Tang Xiu quickly said, "If you want to eat something, I'll have it delivered here, and Master will accompany you." Gu Yan held Tang Xiu's arm, shook it, and acted coyly like a little girl. "Master, please. Every time Yan wakes up here, I really want to go out to see the outside world. Besides, it won't take much time. I heard from old Ji that you found precious medicinal herbs and have concocted spirit condensing pills. Please tell old Ji to concoct it and give it me. I feel spirited now, and I think I can stay awake for 2 or 3 days even if I go out." This, Tang Xiu hesitated. He didn't have the heart to reject Yan's request. After a short while, he slowly nodded and said, "All right." I'll tell Xiao Xue to arrange the meal in the restaurant. We'll wait until the feast is about ready and then we'll go out, since staying outside for even a minute would still affect you a bit. Yes, yes. Thanks, master. Gu Yan was pleasantly surprised. Tang Xiu stood and rushed to the first floor of the exquisite pagoda with his fastest speed. He then looked at the 4 pair of eyes and said, Xiao Xue, prepare a meal. Yan, I and the others will eat in the restaurant. But Lord, she is, Ji Qimei hastily said. Qimei, I understand what's inside your mind. Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her and said, in fact, I also have the same worry. But she wants to go out and see the outside world, so I can only comply with her plea this once. Besides, having a meal won't take too much time, and it's better than keeping her here all the time. I understand your intention, Lord. Ji Qimei nodded and said, Xiao Xue, go and arrange it. Affirmative. Upon hearing that her master could leave the exquisite pagoda for some time, Gu Xiaoxue immediately looked excited and cried out. Immediately after, her figure turned ethereal and instantly disappeared from the pagoda's entrance. Half an hour later, when Gu Xiaoxue notified that the meal had been prepared, Tang Xiu then brought Gu Yan to the first floor of the exquisite pagoda. Greetings, master. Light and Dark looked excited as they kowtowed, paying respect to Gu Yan. Gu Yan held Tang Xiu's hand. She lifted her hand gently as a soft force swept the duo and gently lifted them. Don't overly stand on ceremony. We haven't met for a few years, and you have grown up a lot. Anyways, I'll accompany master to a meal. You can kowtow to me again. Ji Qimei's expression flickered, as she then said in a deep voice, what are you stunned for? Quickly say thanks to master. Master? Light and Dark exchanged glances. They suddenly realized something. Immediately, their faces turned excited and were about to kneel again. But after recalling Gu Yan's words, they held back and respectfully obeyed. At this moment, Gu Yan didn't even spare them a glance. There was no one else in her eyes but her master. While holding Tang Xiu's arm, she left the exquisite pagoda step by step alongside him and came to the sea surface. After a dozen breaths, a charming smile hung on her face as she and Tang Xiu stood together at the shore. Master, Yan establishing the everlasting feast hall turned out not bad a decision at all. At least they found you. They are indeed very good. Tang Xiu nodded with a smile. In fact, you also gave master a good lesson. What lesson? Gu Yan curiously asked.